This is the Ultra 8 by 25 roughing and finishing planer. I will be going over many of the fine features on this machine. I'm going to go over the lubrication points on this machine. The automatic pump lubes the feed chain, which is very important because if this is only oiled periodically, the chain may wear out. It also has a central lubrication manual pump. This lubricates all the slideways around the back and various oil points necessary for running the machine for longevity. As you notice, each grease point and oil point has color codes, and this indicates the type of grease oil that should be used periodically at certain times. There are many features on this machine that I will outline. For instance, this adjustment is for making the chain drop lower to give more traction to the pieces. This position is for presetting material without using the thickness gauge that is on the digital readout. There are also individual measurements for the thicknessing and the in-feed table, as well as the LED readout.
Yep.
There's also a remote conveyor stop and start with the master stop button, which will isolate the whole machine and activate both top and bottom motor brakes. There is also a measurement at the back in case a minor adjustment is made. Note, the limit switches are for maximum and minimum of the thickness table, preventing crashing into the table or going too high. The features on the reverse side, for instance, are some of the safety switches. So if the door is opened, which is the access to the bottom head belts, the machine will automatically disconnect. The lever here is for the belt tension for the bottom spindle. If you notice, this chart is the lubrication chart for all the lubrication points and gives you the time to oil and the type of oil needed. This is also in the instruction manual. Points here, for instance, are from the front side manual pump for lubricating the slideways. On the top is the automatic lube connections for the feed chain belt. Most everything is very accessible. The door for the bottom feed roll chains for the feed rolls, the top feed rolls, and from the drive, which has the adjustment at this point and should only be adjusted when the belt is in motion. The belt tension, as stated previously, is the lever here and is easy to tighten up. As you can see, there are many decals for safety. I'm going to show you the electrics inside the panel. This indicator is for the voltage operated. In this case it's 480, but as you can see the power is off. All the motor controls are Telemecanique, which are manufactured under the name of Square D. So in other words, these can be bought anywhere in the US. The top head and the bottom head are with a timer for soft start, with also control transformer, amperage gauges for the top and bottom head, and the isolation switch, and the control line fuses. The in-feed table before the bottom cutter head is adjusted by the hand wheel underneath. The scale for this is in this position, and a depth of cut can be taken up to about 5/8 of an inch. This determines the thickness of the amount of material taken off the bottom. There are many advantages with the Ultraplaner over the standard straight knife roll feed type. For instance, the Ultra has the sprung loaded grips that equalize the material while passing over the bottom spiral head. The fingers put equal pressure on the material so that it rides over the bottom head equally. The conventional roll feed table planers press down the cup in the board and often split. The carpet feed passes the material over the bottom cutting head, past the anti-friction roll, then onto the driven table rollers. The table rollers are adjustable for wet lumber at about 3 thou above the table. For dry lumber, it is recommended that the table rollers are equal to the table surface. At this point, the feed rollers are in contact with the material, and the top feed rollers are directly above, thus giving positive feed all the way through the machine. This will be the typical piece I will be placing through the machine to show how the machine will equalize the top and bottom surface. As you can see on the bottom surface, it is very bowed, and the top surface is almost as bad. This will equalize when running over the bottom cutter head, and when it's equalized, will then ride on the bed surface plate, the two feed rolls, driven feed rolls in the table, and the top planing head will equalize the top surface, giving a much improved finish and thickness. I'm going to show you the easy access of the top and bottom cutter heads and how effectively it is for changing the blades. First of all, I will isolate the machine before I do this procedure. I'm going to show you how to access and change the knives of the bottom cutting head. Release the cover. Take the tension off the belts. Take off the belts. Undo the nut. Also note that the jacks are each side for making the cutter head parallel to the table. Undo the other nut. And pull the cutter head out. Note that it has got a stop, so the cutter head will rest in the place and not fall over. To change the blades, you simply undo the set screw and pull the knife out and turn it over. The knife has two sides and the size is 30 by 12. To locate the head in the right position when changing the knives, you can simply turn in the lock, and this will lock the head so that you can change all the row. With two people, this can be done in about 35 minutes. It should be noted that when you're changing the knives, the holders should be super clean, otherwise the knives will not sit perfectly in position and will create lines down your material. When this is set and all the knives are in place, simply push the head back in. Lock this side, release the lock for setting the knives, don't forget. The nut should be locked on the other side and the belts placed back on the pulleys and the door closed. To access the top head, the two screws here are released and the hood is separated from the isolation switch. The knives are accessible from the top, and each row is easy to get to change the knives. And once again, when you're changing the knives, please make sure that the slots are super clean, otherwise the knives will be uneven and marks will be appearing on the material. I'm going to go over a few of the features that enable the machine to run perfectly and not snipe at the end of material, feed sideways, etc., etc. The adjustments here, for instance, are for the spring tension of the top feed rolls. You'll notice that the chip breakers are sectional and individually sprung loaded, preset at the factory. There are grease points for each one of these that need doing periodically, perhaps every 3 months, by undoing the plate here, here and here, lifting the plate up and accessing the grease points. The chip breakers are adjustable by the setting bolts here, and also set with the feed roll, so when the feed roll sets up, it also moves the chip breaker up, preventing jamming. The outfeed pressure plate is sprung loaded at this point and is adjusted here and here. Normally I have this set below the cutting surface about 0.010 of an inch. This can be achieved when the material is underneath and the cutter head is in contact. Place 10 to 15 thou below here and here for your accurate setting. Please note the safety switch. When the hood is placed back on the cutter head and into the slot, it will enable the machine now to run. I'm going to take off the lock and go over some of the controls on the panel. I'm going to turn the power on and set the thickness to 1.5 inches. I'm going to set the thickness to 2 inch, and you'll notice that the top table will go higher and then back down for bringing it back to its accurate point of 2 inches. We are on 2 inches, however, if we press units a couple of times, it will revert to metric. Now we're at 50.79 millimeters. I'll change it back to inches. This is the master stop switch. It will kill the whole machine. And if pressed permanently, will cause the brakes to activate on the top and bottom spindles, stopping in a matter of seconds. I'm going to demonstrate this on the first bottom cutting head. Approximately 2 seconds. An excellent safety feature if urgently required. The push button here is for the feed. The feed cannot be activated unless both cutter heads are running, purely for safety. This is the stop for the feed, start for the bottom cutting spindle, stop for the bottom cutting spindle, start for the top cutting spindle, and stop for the top cutting spindle. You'll note that the top spindle has an amperage gauge, and so does the bottom. This is very important when cutting material, because if you're cutting material either too thick or the material is dense, you'll notice that the amperage rating will be high. You'll also notice the amperage rating will be high when the knives are getting very dull. And when the knives do get dull, you'll notice a furry sheen on the material. This adjustment is for the feed and should only be adjusted when the feed is running. The board measures 1 3/8, and I'm going to cut it down to 1 1/4. So I'll be taking approximately a good 1/16 off both sides. Now you can see how the carpet feed has flattened the top and bottom surface. The thickness is 1.250 which is 1.25 inches right on the money. The finish is also very good. Notice there are no snipe marks on the end. Even finish. The board is straightened. We have many of these machines running out in the field, and the videos from various companies will be visible on YouTube. Please pay attention and check on all our videos. Thank you for watching.